Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Card Talk, a card where we spend just a little bit of time talking about cards from Lord of the Rings, the card game, LCG by Fantasy Flight Games. And today we have such a fantastic special fireside episode of Card Talk. I can't contain my excitement, and my co-host David is also very excited for today's episode. Tell me, David.
I am Ted.
David the Elf. So good to have you here on Card Talk, and I'm so excited to be talking about today's card.
Well, Ted, as you know, Card Talk is quite a important staple of the community, right? Like, we especially like to take ourselves seriously around the holidays.
Nothing but.
And you know that we do have a blog over at cardtalk2018.com where Matt gives us a written version of a card review every week. And we have the Patreon if you want to see more, see what your Patreon funds help support.
You're looking at it.
You're looking at it.
So if you're listening to this so we should mention, if you're listening to this only via audio, David is wearing a very festive, I'll say like elf hat that's red and green. It's complete with tall elf ears and a very gnomely type beard, is how I'll describe big white Santa beard. It's absolutely fantastic for our holiday episode here. Now you're like a Santa elf, and I'm confused. I don't know how this thing works.
Yeah, I don't know either. But anyways, if you can become a patron over there, patreon.com/cardtalk2018. At the very least, Ted, we like to have fun.
We do. Right, Matt is fun at the blog. We have Micah over at Second Breakfast too, doing some playthroughs for us on Sundays. He's been a good person this year.
It's been a great host.
I think we're all on the nice list. But we're gonna we're gonna talk about what what Santa is making for all the boys and girls of Middle Earth this year. And another common theme to the holidays is parties. And there's lots of festive type parties. And I think, David, if I was going to a holiday party, whether it be for Christmas or New Year's, you're the host I would want to have. I would want you to host the party, and boy, I want you to wear that to your next, like, have a holiday party, and then this is what you're wearing.
I'll wear it at Con of the Rings next year.
That'd be perfect. That's also a party, right?
That is a party
that is hosted by the men of the North. So we have a fantastic episode. So, David, why don't you tell us what today's card is that we're reviewing during these holiday times?
Ted, it's just such a great card. Oh, so today's card is the host of the Galadhrim. All my little elves are over there, just hosting their little party and making their little toys. And it appears that this year they're making a lot of banners and swords and spears. But, that's just the way it goes here with the gift giving in the halls of Lothlorien. But nonetheless, Host of Galadhrim is a 4-cost neutral card, and it's a planning action. It says return each Sylvan ally you control to your hand. Then play each of those allies from your hand one at a time at no cost. Whew.
Wow. Dave, can you tell me, is this when the elves show up at Helm's Deep?
You're so funny, Ted. It's not. If I remember correctly, at the very end of the Lord of the Rings, there was actually a two-front assault that Sauron was making. So he was trying to come at Minas Tirith from Mordor, but he was also from Dol Guldur. He was trying to attack Lothlorien, and so I think that the host of the Galadhrim came out from Lothlorien and met the host from Dol Guldur, and it was a loss from Dol Guldur as well. So I think that that's what this is referring to. There was never any elves at. And if you imply so, Ted, you're gonna be a naughty boy.
Fantastic. So we got elves for the holidays, and
we got lots of elves to help making.
I know it's a whole host. It's a whole. I would want to go to a holiday party. Thranduil, he's kind of a jerk, but I feel like he maybe might throw a decent winter festival party.
Yeah, well, look at what Galleon did he got all drunk and let the dwarves out. Let the dwarves out?
Right. So we know those guys. They have a giant cellar full of wine. So I feel like if I got that invitation, I would go. I'd take the raft down the river to the elf halls for my holiday party.
Right. Well,
to join the Sylvan elves.
To be clear, the Sylvans are from from Mirkwood, right? Like Greenwood the Great and stuff. And then the elves of Imladris or Rivendell are usually considered the Noldor elves.
Oh yes, and that's the Galadhrim. But yeah, right. Okay.
But no, the Galadhrim is the Sylvan elves, which is part of Lothlorien. The only Noldor that's usually tied up with the Sylvan elves is Galadriel. She married Celeborn. Celeborn is a Sylvan elf, and Galadriel. For more on the different types of elves, you should look into the Silmarillion. It depends.
He's your first cousin.
Yeah.
Or your second cousin, once removed on your mother's side.
Right.
These are all related.
Right. All the elves are kind of related, and but it depends on whether they were, if they were in the Blessed Realm or if they had been part of this. Like it's depending on if they were in Valinor or not in Valinor. So it depends on. There's Teleri elves and there's all sorts of different kinds of elves. But anyways, This is only for Sylvans, and gameplay wise, the reason why you want to have a card that puts them all in your hand and then puts them all back is because Sylvan have all these crazy when enter play effects, and coupled with Celeborn and Galadriel, like you just get a whole boatload of extra stuff because Galadriel makes your Sylvan or makes any ally that enters play not exhaust the quest the first round it's in play, and then Celeborn on top of that gives everybody a +1 to all their stats, and then they're not exhausting the quest, so then they quest for a whole bunch, and then they can attack for a whole bunch or defend for a whole bunch. So this is really that power card that probably this has Caleb written all over it.
Mm-hmm.
That just really tipped the Sylvan archetype from pretty powerful to very powerful. Just this one card really makes the Sylvans a crazy force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, it seems like one of those. You have to have enough allies on the table to kind of make it worth it, right? If you're going to return one ally to your hand, it seems like you're better off spending those resources playing more. How many allies will you have on the table for you to be like, okay, this is going to make an impact for me to spend 4 resources on it?
Well, there's such a wide variety of effects, and so it really depends on which allies are down.
Okay.
But I would say that like 1 for 1, so 4 allies usually makes it okay. But I've done this with 9 or 10 allies on the table.
Oh wow. Okay.
And it also depends. It also depends on which allies you put down first, because you have something like Rumil, which does damage when it enters play based on the number of of characters that have ranged.
Right.
So you put all your ranged guys down. You may have 4 or 5 ranged guys on the table, and then you put
Sure.
Rumil down, and then he's doing 6 damage, and then like so you don't put
Mm-hmm.
Rumil down first. So I mean, there's a lot of
Because you get to play, yeah, you get to play them in any order since it's all
right.
happening simultaneously.
Yep.
Right. Okay.
Yep. Because it says play them one at a time, but it doesn't say in any particular order.
Yeah.
So I
Okay.
guess technically, when technically the first player gets to choose that. Right? If there's a decision to be made, the first player always gets to make that decision, right, Ted?
Something like that.
Wouldn't that be funny?
Host of the Galadhrim. So this came out. It came out in City of Ulfast. So this came out like the last cycle of the game. So it didn't come out when there were like 2 other waves of like Sylvan cards that were printed, and this card came out at the end. But it's also available in the Elves of Lorien starter deck. I don't know if it's in the main deck or if it's one of those like extra sideboard cards they give you. But I think that's kind of cool. So if you're looking to pick it up, that's where you can get it currently.
Yeah, and I remember specifically talking to Caleb about this, where he said that this was the card that he just really wanted to have for his Sylvan deck. Like it's just so good.
Yeah.
I'm
surprised you're able to record wearing that giant beard because
oh, Ted, I can do a lot of things that you didn't know that I could.
It's also funny too because there's so much beard on your face right now that you're like a cartoon character because I can't see your mouth, so but your eyes are very expressive. So if you're listening to the audio version, you're
missing out on something.
For this episode.
I'm trying to get the people who are just audio version only, a little something with my little like funny ho-ho-hoing and stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
But yeah, host the Galadhrim. I do like it. I think it's definitely it's like a mid to late game card because you get it early. You don't have allies on the table. You're like, but to run, I'd say like 3 seems way too many. This is like a 1, maybe 2 of.
Yeah, I mean, and you can also get it back because you get the Weaver. So you put the Weaver in play, and then
can shuffle it back in if it's on the top.
Right, which is where it's going to be, because then you're going to put the Weaver back down, and it's going to be on the top, and it gets shuffled back in your deck. So, like, I mean, you get a lot of use out of 2 of these in a deck.
And
go ahead.
I was going to say the Galadhrim Minstrel is the ally that searches for the top 5 cards for an event. So I really like it that the Galadhrim Minstrel can fish out this card as well.
Right. And it's also good because you don't want this card in the first 2 or 3 rounds. Like
no.
This is a late game, end the game sort of thing.
Yeah.
And this literally can turn the tide of a bad scenario. Because Sylvans are all wimpy. Like, not all of them. I mean, Haldir ally is pretty good, and but in general, you have a lot of 1 hit point, 1 or 2 cost allies, and it's tough when they like you're late in the game and you have 17 allies and none of them do anything, right? And so this is, you pick them all up, you put them back down, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, this is when I'm going to win the game. And that's what it is. It turns a close game into a not so close game, which is amazing. As long as you're building it with at least Celeborn, but Galadriel and Celeborn.
Yeah. If you're playing Celeborn and Galadriel, all those allies get those same benefits. That means that turn they all get their stat boosted again, and they all quest without exhausting. On top of most of the Sylvan allies have enter play effects, which again you're going to be triggering when you do this. So I can see it being the card where you're like, that's the round where you turn the game over and you kind of can put things in your favor because then you're questing for a whole bunch for free.
Right.
and then you also have all these characters available to still attack or defend.
Right. And it's great because a lot of those Sylvan effects can go across the table too. So like you can bring in all those Sylvans again, and you can really turn the tide for a solo game or for a multiplayer game, and it has like you know it's worked for me in all sorts of situations.
Yeah. Yeah, but it seems fun to play too. Like it seems like like it's fun to
Oh,
resolve.
it is so fun to play.
Oh, the hosts there. It's a good host to have. Like I said, if you're having a party, I feel like you want to have elf host it for the holidays, and who knows what they're gonna bring. You're such a jolly folk.
They are so jolly, up in their flets. Oh, do you know what a flet is, Ted?
I have absolutely no idea. I was gonna Google it.
Okay.
Is that the hole where you?
It's like the tree stand that they live on, right? It's the platforms and the big mullein trees that they do. So it's good stuff. So
got it. Makes sense.
Well, jolly old Ted.
Yeah.
Should we talk about the artwork on Galadhrim?
Yeah, absolutely. Host the Galadhrim. It's the flavor text says Celeborn came forth and led the host of Lorien, which is from Return of the King. So I think your timing of the events of which this is focused around. What do you think?
Yeah. Of the art?
Yeah.
I think that I'm surprised that the community didn't come out and talk about blonde elves again. Because I don't think that there's many fair-haired elves in the lore of Tolkien. But this is definitely not Magali elves. But again, I like the artwork. I like the elves. Oh, I love the elves! They help me every year. And so it's good. I like the artwork. I could definitely tell they're coming to war. There's a lot of banners and spears, and it's a loosely assembled group of elves, but it's definitely the host of the Galadhrim here. So, how about you? What do you think of the artwork there?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely an elven host in the picture. They're all elven armored up. I like the arms, like the swords and their
Do you know how many arms each of those elves have?
3.
They each have 2 arms. 2 arms. Oh, that's my joke of the day. Just so you know, everybody, that's another card in the game. If you're watching the video, that card will just pop up right down here. 2 arms.
2 arms, indeed. Yeah, I think their look works great, and yeah, the flavor and timing and theme all comes together. I'll say rules wise too, keep in mind that this is a planning action. So you can't do this during the combat phase, during the quest phase. Like it's specifically during the planning phase. Phase 1, you draw a card, collect a resource. Phase 2, you're doing your normal planning. You can play events, allies, kind of whatever you want to in an open window. And that's the phase you get to play this card. So that's maybe it's one single restriction where it would be better if it was just a regular action. But I think then it might be too good. I think a planning action is fair for everything that you're getting out of this card.
Yeah, and I think it makes it consistent with what like. Very rarely do you bring a Sylvan ally not in during the planning phase unless you're playing Thranduil, which means you can.
That's his whole jam.
That's his whole jam. But so you bring in that's when you're bringing them in. So it doesn't change really how Sylvans work because you're bringing them in most of the time during the planning phase, but it's good. And keep in mind, you can play a Galadhrim Archer, deal its 1 damage, and then play Host of the Galadhrim, pull it up, put the Galadhrim, the Galadhrim Archer back down, and have it deal its 2nd damage. So there's timing things that you can do with this that make it, a lot of fun. And then you have Rumil, and I don't know. Go back to our whole series on our very first
Extravaganza.
extravaganza month of
Yeah.
Sylvan February. We did Sylvan February. It was so much fun.
Yeah, a lot of Sylvan cards we've already done and talked about, but this one, because it came out later, like I said, it wasn't around when those first two sort of waves of cards came out. So I'm really glad that this archetype got this and, and kind of rounded everything out. So yeah, cool arts, great effect, very thematic, and I think also quite powerful. So as an elf of Santa, or you are Santa that turned into an elf, I don't really know what's going on, but
Let's
how
bring
many?
this guy.
If you were to make rings for the holidays and give this card rings, how many would you give it? If on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the greatest card of all, like the best gift you could ever give, to 10 being like, I'm gonna, yeah, like this is a lump of coal, and when Santa's not looking, I'm gonna like put it back into his gift bag from whence it came.
Oh well, Ted. I really think that this takes the Sylvan decks to the next level. Like, there wasn't much of another level for it to go, except this really just helps it get there even better. So I would say, but it only fits into Sylvan deck, so it's really hard. I've always had trouble ringing these cards accurately because, I mean, they really only go into one deck. It's the Sylvan deck. So
Yeah.
like, so it should be a 9, right? Because it only fits into one deck. It doesn't inspire deck building because that one deck is already there. But I mean, as everybody knows, I mean, I love my hobbits, but I do love my Sylvans. So, I think that because of the power of this card, it really brings, I think it's fairly costed. I think that it's, it doesn't skew the game. This is a bomb card. This is one of those cards that just changes the flow of the whole game, or can change it. So, so because of that, I think that I have to give it like 3 rings. I think it's good. Oh, I give this card 3 rings, Ted! How about you? Have you been a good boy?
And a pear tree. So I've played this card in Sylvan decks. My Sylvan deck's actually a Bond of Friendship deck, which I like because this fills up the neutral slot, and also I have the extra resource. I can just pay. I just have the resources to help pay for this card. But I still seem to have a little trouble. Like I'm like, oh, I only have like 2 allies out right now. Like it never quite seems to jive, and I haven't had that big turn with it yet. So that's maybe ruined my experience with it a little bit. But I want to keep playing that deck, or maybe trying a different deck. So but it's very, very powerful. The effect is very great. I think it's well costed. So I'm gonna give it a 4. I'm actually gonna rate a card lower than you.
It's supposed to be 5 golden rings, Ted.
That's right.
5 gold rings.
Why didn't we give it a 5 golden rings? I missed my window there. Bummer. So you heard it from me. I'm giving it 5 golden rings. That's the official.
Me too. I'm giving it 5 rings. Because you know what?
That's it.
Our ratings don't matter. It's like whose line is it anyways? Where the jokes are funny and the points don't matter.
Honestly, that's exactly it. So I never want to give a card a bad rating. It's because I never want to prevent actually anyone from trying a card, and because they could try it or have a different experience with it than I have. So even if we rate cards towards the bottom end of the scale, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10,
cards always have a place.
They do. I want everyone to know that, and like, thank you for reiterating it, David. Because yeah, so give it a try. This one we happen to think is great, and if you're playing Sylvans, definitely toss 1 or 2 copies in your deck, and you'll see the effect it can have. But give it a shot, and happy holidays.
Okay, everybody, thank you so much for giving to us this year and being such a great audience. With that, everybody, have a great rest of the year.
To all a good night.
Ho, 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 ho.
Do you love the content? Here's what you can do to stay connected. Become a patron. The money collected through Patreon goes into keeping the lights on here at the podcast. We love our patrons, and you can join at many different levels. Visit patreon.com/cardtalk2018. You can subscribe to us, whether you're watching our YouTube channel or you're listening to us in your favorite podcatcher. Hit the subscribe button to get notifications of all our new episodes. Didn't know we were an audio podcast? Find us by searching Card Talk to get access to our 120 plus regular episodes. Didn't know we were a video channel? Find us by searching Card Talk LOTR LCG on YouTube. And there you can find not only our regular episodes, but you can find our bonus playthroughs and other content related to the game. Want to get a hold of Ted, Grant, or myself? Feel free to email the podcast at cardtalk2018@gmail.com.